Hey everyone, I'm back. It's because I forgot something. So I know this is a bit a surprise. Because I just did a thing. And, but I have to share this. I'm calling this the burqa revolution. So, hey Jeannie. So I just did a thing and I forgot one of the things I wanted to share. And hi Elizabeth again. So I was just saying, I forgot something I wanted to share. That's like epic. And at least I think it is. I love it when prophetic words come into fulfillment. And but I was so captivated by some things I'm going to go do that I forgot this one thing. And if I don't say it, then I'll just move on and it'll get lost in the archive of all the whatever, and I'll have to figure out and pick it up later. But I just wanted to say this so I can have it posted on the Facebook diary. And that is, I called it the burqa revolution. and the reason I'm calling it the burqa revolution is because in 2012, I prophetically spoke about the burqas, that they would remove them from their face, and the whole prophetic word was about a glory that was being concealed, and that when they removed the burqas, that the glory would shine upon their face. And I wrote an article. My brother's trying to find the article, and on the picture of this article is a burqa. You know, this woman wearing the burqas, you know, in the Middle East and Iran and all these different places. And I don't know if I shared this. I hope not, because sometimes I forget. But when I was in Spokane a number of years ago, I can't remember, like 2012, 11, somewhere in there. I was speaking in Spokane, and I began to prophesy about the removal of the burqas and what it would represent, and the glory of the Lord that would shine forth when this began to happen. Well, I go to the hotel, and when I get to the hotel, I wake up the next morning, and you know how they slide the paper under your door? Well, I looked at the paper, and at that time, Lori was still with me, and I picked up the paper, and on the front of it, of the newspaper, was a Middle Eastern woman with a burqa on her face. And the whole front page was about this whole burqa thing, you know, and what it represented or whatever. And I knew that that was a sign, right? Like, oh my gosh, like this is the deal. And Lori was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Anyhow, so I say all that to say this. So that was a prophetic word. It was, you know, brought affirmation, all this stuff. Well, recently, you can look this up in the news. I mean, recently, like in the last couple of weeks or so, these all these women are standing on crates and on public forums right in the middle of their cities, and they're ripping off their burqas, hanging them on trees or doing whatever, and basically saying, excuse me, we're not doing this anymore. We're not hiding our faces. And oh my gosh, and get this, the testimony is, many of them are saying that when they are seeing the faces of these women, it's like a glory emanating from their face. Come on. Is that awesome or what? And they're talking about just, and of course these women are being arrested. It's creating just a whole chaotic upheaval in all these different areas, especially Iran. But they don't care, even at the cost of their life. It's like we're done. So I say that to say we need to be praying for them, because there is a boldness that has come upon them, and it's like we're not hiding our faces anymore. And literally, they're revealing the glory of the Lord. Now, when I was in Spokane, I was sharing this when I was in Spokane because it happened in Spokane years ago, this thing. And then right before I went to Spokane, I saw this in the news and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is that word. And one of the things that hit me while I was in Spokane most of you who've been there know that Spokane is a real historical city. Everything, relates years back, and a lot of their structure is very ancient in the sense of history. But this is what the Lord spoke to me when I was there, and I prophetically spoke this at the meeting. He says, I'm changing this city from an historical city to a futuristic city. Oh my gosh. I literally felt chills when I was releasing this word, because it has that feel of an ancient land. And he goes, it's going to go through a transformation, and it's no longer going to be the city about the old, but it's going to be a city of a new. And I shared the encounter that it was on before the year 2000, when I was in Yakima. I was a builder at the time, building homes and this and that in construction, but doing some ministry stuff on the side. And I prophetically spoke that Old Town would become New Town, and New Town would become Old Town. We didn't even know what that meant. Downtown Yakima at the time had Nordstrom's, had the mall, had all of these other shopping things downtown. Well, it was like 2 years later, somewhere in there, all of a sudden a shift took place. And the downtown became Old Town. Like Nordstrom's left, all of these the mall closed down, and they moved to a city that is connected to Yakima called Union Gap, that is otherwise known as Old Town. Excuse me. Old Town today is literally New Town. The mall's there, all of these new stores, everything. So there was literally a shift that took place where Old Town became New Town, and New Town became Old Town. In fact, the downtown Yakima is like, more of history, and they're doing that whole thing. But that was just a huge thing, right? So that word that I spoke in Spokane reminded me of the old becoming new. And I had a sense in the spirit, it is because there is new technology. There are some major eruptions in the spirit that are going to rise up in Spokane that is going to transform that land. And this is what I love about the prophetic. In fact, the meetings that we go to, I consider myself like I'm a transformative prophet. I mean, when I function, that's what I do, is I create transitions. And there's a lot of people who can function at that level. I believe everybody can do it, to tell you the truth. It's just a matter of getting a hold of it. But when I go into a land, like I'm like, if you're looking for a transition, if you're wanting to go from transition from point A to point B or C and D, then I'm telling you, this mantle that is upon us, it gives us the ability to do that, to actually create a transition, a governmental transition in people's lives, in the land, and so forth and so on. So whenever I go somewhere, I'm expecting a transition to take place at a personal level, but also at a governmental level in the city and in the land. So I lean into that more because I believe that's what we each carry. And when we come into an agreement, there's some things that happen. So when God reveals something to me, I'm right out the gate with it because I know it's going to cause a transition to take place. So I believe that's what many of you who will view this video and view in this video, that's what you carry. The sound that is in you is a transitional sound. The sound that is in you is a sound that enables you to create a governmental transition in the land. And so the revelation knowledge, your creative ability, how you think, all of that has the ability to cause people to see something, to enter into something that they have yet to enter into. So anyhow, and the last word I want to say with this is, I think I shared this before about breaking the laws of measurement. And I shared this video a few days ago, breaking the laws of measurement. In other words, where things could be measured, they won't be measured the same anymore because we're going off the charts. And it kind of relates to a little bit of the video that I just did. But the Lord put this in my spirit. He goes, you're about ready to break the laws of measurement. The way that you have been measuring things won't be able to measure it anymore because the glory is going to be that great. In fact, we're coming into a currency, a financial currency in this nation, and even the parts of the world where you're not going to be able to measure it the same way. And the prophetic word was the millions, the billions, then we go gillions, trillions, whatever it is, or trillions and gillions, whatever the illions are, that it's literally going to go off the charts where you won't be able to measure it the same anymore. That is the level of abundance that we're coming into. We're breaking the barrier of abundance. And so the ability to calculate it is going to change. It's probably going to be digital. I know that's spooky, but the thing is, we're not going to be able to keep up with it anymore because the value is changing. Years ago, again, around 2000, I'm telling you, 2012 was a major year of propheticness where things were released. I have countless words in 2012 that were released, and one of them was about a new currency, and that made people spooky because all the new world governments and all this stuff, But the point was, and I realize it now, I didn't know what it really meant then, but I have a greater understanding now. It's because the value is changing. In fact, that word at the time, our dollar had dropped. It was, not looking good. And in a prophetic song, it came out. The Lord says, no, don't look at that because it's going to be greater than it has ever been before. And so, Elizabeth, I can declare this to you. I'm always picking on Elizabeth because just where she's at and stuff. But anyhow, the sound, see, it's going to create a new currency. It's going to create a transformation where people will enter into a new value in the spirit in the kingdom of God. And so the sound that you carry is transitional. And those of you that listen to this, I'm telling you, you have the ability to create a transition. It's a governmental thing. You're created in the image and likeness of God. You are sons and daughters of God. Hello? How could it not change it? How could it not shift? So my point is, be intentional. So when you are somewhere, expect something to shift because of your presence, because that's what you carry. So when I go into an area, I expect something to shift. When I go into South Korea, I've spoken into that government of the land a few years back. I'm seeing it now happen. So I'm not just going in there to predict something. I'm going in there to create something, to create motion. And like I've said again and again, and I'll say it again and again, I'm not just here to predict the future, but to create one, to create an outcome. And in that sense, we become co-creators with God. I believe in the prediction, predicting certain things to happen, but it is making way for us to be co-creators, to create governmental shifts in the earth, transitions of heaven on the earth. And therefore, governments abroad will be impacted by it in a powerful way. Okay, I just had to say that. The Burqa Revolution. That's probably not the best title, but the Burqa Revolution. Love you guys. See ya.